The movie opens with the first story. The sighting in the cheerleading room. 3 university students enter a storeroom. They seem to go through things and talk about how the professor said they can take anything they find useful. While sifting, they discover a cloth with a number 37 on it and take it. But as they exit, the door ominously shuts. The scene then shifts to introduce Tai, who receives a cheerleading team application form from Faye. Faye requests that Tai complete the form and submit it to the seniors. During this interaction, Tai also meets Faye's friend, Shin. Faye is seen giving cheerleading tips to Tai when Shin notices a girl staring at them from a distance. The sight gives quite a good scare to Shin as he screams asking who that is. Tai quickly identifies her as her friend Mesa. After introducing Mesa to Faye and Shin, the 4 of them decide to take photos. Unbeknownst to Faye and Shin, this location holds significance as Tai and Mesa's secret spot, and Mesa appears less than pleased about Tai bringing them there. As they head toward the common room to meet the seniors, Mesa's attention is drawn to a particular room, and a book falls from her hand as she passes by it. Sensing something amiss, Tai suggests for the others to go on ahead, while she briefly catches up with Mesa. She pulls Mesa aside and inquires about her strange behavior near the room. Mesa claims she didn't realize what she was doing, and as something moves inside the room, Tai blocks Mesa's view and emphasizes the need to act naturally. Mesa, visibly scared, expresses her fear as she sees someone walking, and Tai reassures her that she will protect her if anything happens. It seems that the 2 of them harbor a dark secret that they would not like the others to know about. In the common room, Tai observes that Mesa is trembling with fear and advises her to ignore anything unusual she might see. Senior Nutch welcomes everyone to the fraternity night and introduces them to Cho, the current captain. Cho explains that their first activity would be practicing the school anthem together. The instruction is that if anyone makes a mistake, the drum will stop, and they must start over until they achieve perfect unison. Their former senior, Ming, will also be observing. As they begin, it becomes apparent that Mesa is out of sync, with Faye noting that she was chanting something different. When they restart, Mesa's attention is drawn to a room, and the lights in there begin to flicker. Ming calls for a halt, and Mesa slowly looks up to find a horrifying ghost inside the room. Petrified, the poor girl screams with fright, causing the students to scatter in fear. Nutch comes running and asks if Mesa is alright. Tai soothes the girl and tells her senior that she just needs some fresh air. The seniors are also scared as they announce a 15-minute break. Tai escorts Mesa outside, where Mesa confides that it's happening again, alluding to a previous experience. Simultaneously, Shin reveals to Faye that Mesa is rumored to be able to see ghosts. Back with the seniors, they discuss Mesa's claim while lighting incense sticks. They overhear Ming admonishing Cho and Nutch, instructing them to speak with Mesa. Back outside, Mesa expresses her desire to leave, fearing she will disrupt the practice again. But Tai offers to speak to the senior and retrieve a jacket for her. As Tai returns to the common room, she overhears Shin talking about how Mesa can see ghosts. Faye sees her and inquires about Mesa's well-being. They ask if it is true that Mesa can see ghosts. When Tai rejects the notion, Shin relays that everyone is whispering about Mesa's ability to see ghosts. Tai gets angry and asks them if they would cease to be Mesa's friend if she indeed possessed such an ability. In response, they remain silent. Tai borrows a jacket from another girl and departs. Outside, she calls her senior to ask permission for Mesa to leave. Nutch conveys Mesa's wish to leave to Ming and Cho, but Ming refuses. He gets angry at them, saying that if they let her go, they would be obliged to let others go as well, and then their ceremony would be ruined. Finally, the other 2 seniors reluctantly agree to just let her rest with them instead of letting her go. Outside, Mesa asks Tai what they plan to tell the others, but her attention is abruptly drawn to a ghost, causing her to become terrified. Tai quickly averts her attention and offers Mesa the jacket. She says that she has talked to the seniors, and they are discussing what to do. Just then, their interaction is witnessed by Nutch, who asks them to come inside. As they re-enter the common room, Mesa feels the weight of strange looks from the other students. Cho, attempting to maintain order, acknowledges Mesa's discomfort, but insists that the show must go on. Ming, however, displays annoyance and demands to know about Mesa's problem. Mesa, visibly distressed, remains silent, prompting Ming to yell at her. When the poor, startled Mesa looks up, she sees a ghost in front of Ming. Shouting, she finally says that there is a ghost in front of him. The man is startled for a bit, but he quickly dismisses her claims and attempts to make light of the situation. He offers a challenge to the spectating audience, saying that if anyone admits to seeing ghosts, he will let them all go home. Despite this, no one raises their hand, and Ming specifically questions Tai, who also denies seeing ghosts. Suddenly, Mesa hears the school anthem and realizes that the students are not actually singing it. Slowly, she looks up and is horrified to see multiple ghosts sitting upside down on the ceiling, chanting the anthem. Overcome with fear, Mesa vomits on Faye, leading to Faye's suggestion that they both leave, assuring the others that they can continue without them. Mesa flees, with Ty in pursuit, unaware that a ghost is following Mesa. Ty enters a room in search of Mesa and hears the sound of someone crying. Turning around, she encounters a ghost. The girl is petrified, but she chooses to ignore it and, trembling, leaves the room. Ty rushes around and finally finds Mesa on the roof, sitting dangerously on the edge. She quickly rushes to her side and questions cautiously why she is sitting there, but Mesa counters by asking why Ty didn't reveal that she could also see ghosts. Why did she betray her friend's trust? Ty explains her reluctance to be seen as a freak like Mesa and confesses that while she is also scared of ghosts, she forces herself to ignore them. Why doesn't she do the same? She implores Mesa to please do the same. Mesa, however, asserts that she tried, but couldn't because she isn't like Ty. And today, even Ty, her only friend, left her side. Ty expresses her frustration, recounting how she always had Mesa's back and did everything she could until she had nothing left. She longs for normalcy, to hang out with friends, travel, and live like everyone else. But now she is tired, frustrated, and scared. Ty starts crying. She is scared that her friend might do something that she would regret. Mesa acknowledges that Ty is her only friend, and Ty, desperately, promises never to leave her alone. She urges Mesa to come down, but their moment is interrupted by the appearance of a ghost between them. The ugly body of the intruding ghost falls flat before their eyes with a loud thud. Ty quickly averts her gaze, refusing to look in front of her, refusing to look at the ghost. Mesa looks at her friend and solemnly tells Ty that when she ignored her the way she ignored the ghosts, it hurt her more than the ghostly sightings. She requests that from now on, Ty not disregard her presence as she does with the ghosts. This ominous declaration sends shivers down poor Ty's spine, and before she can react, it happens. In a tragic turn of events, Mesa takes a last long look at her only best friend, and then finally throws herself off the roof. There is a sense of dreadful peace in her eyes as she falls down to her demise. The cloth with the number 37 entangles with her falling body, and it too falls down onto the ground. Ty shrieks and rushes forward as if to catch her friend, as if it were possible now. She runs to the edge and cries loudly at her loss. The students are shocked and riddled with guilt, realizing their role in Mesa's demise. As Ty grapples with the loss of her best friend, Mesa's ghost appears before her, prompting Ty to apologize, overwhelmed by emotion. Years later, after graduating, Ty visits the university's terrace in memory of Mesa, and we see them reading a book together. The second story introduces a fresher named Tant, who is a medical student. He is reviewing their podcast audio files when one file seems rather odd. At first it seems like there is no audio and just static noise, but then soon a strangely chilling voice of a girl starts. She talks about some mysterious owner of Bed C, the bed in the hostel allocated to Tan, who allegedly returns to the dorm annually. The owner was a first-year med student who met his end after being hit by a car on the 30th anniversary of the college's founding. It is believed that he still wished to continue his studies, prompting his yearly return to the dorm, specifically to Bed C. Tan is unnerved by the tale, and his apprehension heightens when he notices movement on the bed. Just as he is about to palpitate to his demise, he finds out that it is only his roommate. As he gets up and leaves, we learn that his bed number is the infamous C. He meets up with his girlfriend, Tang, who sent him the audio files. She suggests that ghost stories will help him stay awake, but Tan dismisses her notion, insisting he isn't scared. He even teases her that he sent the files to the professor, including her ghost story file. This gives the poor girl a heart attack, and she almost cries. She asks Tan to go back home to study for the upcoming quiz, but he doesn't agree. The following day marks the 70th anniversary of their college, and the medical students assemble to take an oath of ethical behavior and commitment to the medical profession. Upon returning to his room, Tan's roommate informs him that he is going back home. He tells Tan to go back home as well, but the boy ignores his advice and tells him that he is okay here. As the boy leaves, he asks Tan to watch his back. Later that night, we discover that Tan suffers from epilepsy, and he begins having seizures while studying. In an attempt to control his convulsions, he starts hitting the bed, causing his badge to fall. The sound of the badge hitting the tiles finally snaps him out of his seizure. He quickly bends down to look for it. As he searches for it, someone knocks on his door. The boy is momentarily startled, but he quickly recovers and goes to open the door. It turns out to be Tang, who has come to study in his room. They settle down in bed together and begin to study. She reads her book aloud, disrupting Tan's focus. It irritates the boy, and he snaps at her, telling her to be quiet as he wants to study in peace. Tang, although hurt, senses that something is amiss. She warily asks if he has something to tell her. Tan, in a moment of vulnerability, expresses his desire to be alone. Tears stream down Tang's eyes as she reminds him of his aspiration to become a doctor so he can take care of her. Has he forgotten all that? Tan immediately regrets his outburst and embraces his girlfriend, apologizing to her. Later that night, the college's lights flicker, and Tan wakes up to the sound of a scream. He notices that Tang is not in the room, and his attempts to call her go unanswered. Concerned, he ventures out to find her. As he slowly walks down the hallway, he encounters flickering lights that trigger his epilepsy. However, greatly concerned for Tang, he chooses to ignore the lights and continues on. He soon comes into the common area and finds the fridge door ajar. As he is watching the door intently, all of a sudden, it opens wider and a water bottle falls out of the fridge. Startled and somewhat scared, Tan suspects that Tang is playing a prank on him. He keeps repeating for her to stop doing all this and approaches the fridge. With a sense of fear, he cautiously closes the fridge door. He opens and closes it a few more times to make sure that it isn't broken. Now, after finding that it is not one of Tang's pranks, he is overwhelmed by fright. Tan quickly rushes to his room and begins packing his belongings, intending to return home. In the process, he recalls that his badge had fallen under the bed, and he discovers an old badge alongside it, realizing it had slipped out of reach when he hit the bed earlier. He listens to the audio file again, which instructs him to write, "No bed, see here," on a piece of paper and place it outside the door if he wants to deter the ghost's return. However, the effectiveness of this trick is uncertain. Tan tries to call Tang, but she sends a text saying she is already home and discourages him from calling. He quickly writes the text on paper and pastes it outside on the door. However, this too doesn't settle his troubled heart, and he takes his packed bag and exits the room. As Tan leaves for his house, the hallway lights begin to flicker, inducing an epileptic fit. The poor boy's body shakes violently, and he retreats to his room, collapses on the bed, hitting his head on the headboard and faints. Upon waking up later that night, Tan discovers that half of his body is paralyzed, rendering him unable to get up. All of a sudden, the room's lights flicker and go out, and he hears a car crash outside. Petrified, the poor boy begins to sweat heavily, probably thinking he should have just gone back home. Just then, a strange shadow appears on his window, vanishing just as mysteriously as it appeared. The shadow then moves towards the door and Tan's heart sinks as he sees the note he had placed outside the door, now torn and bloody, being thrown inside. Right after he sees the note, he sees the shadow come closer and closer until he sees a ghost enter his room. The ghost is all deformed and bloody, as if it has just been in a car crash. It approaches him, ultimately grabbing his hairs and pulling him down from the bed. Tan attempts to escape the ghost's grasp as it climbs onto the bed. Tan sees the ghost busy clawing at the bed and discreetly drags his body outside the room. Inside, the ghost stops after seeing a new badge on the side table. It then looks at its old badge on the floor, and its anger intensifies. Growling loudly, it exits the room and begins chasing Tan. The poor boy is hiding behind the fridge. After a while of struggle, he gets found out by the bloodthirsty ghost. The beast attacks him, throwing him down the stairs and causing significant injuries. The ghost proceeds to strangle Tan, intending to end his life. In a desperate attempt to ward off the ghost, Tan turns around to see the pin lying on the floor. He recalls the oath of ethical behavior and commitment to the medical profession that he had taken and begins reciting it. Much to his delight, the ghost releases him and disappears. Gravely wounded, Tan crawls out of the building and calls Tang. With all that tumbling, falling and crawling, how is his phone still intact? He finally reveals his epilepsy to her and expresses his deep sadness at not being able to become a doctor. Meanwhile, we see the ghost sitting on Tan's bed, contemplating the badge before vanishing. Tang reassures Tan that he doesn't have to pursue a medical career, and she still wants him to take care of her, meaning that whatever he may be, she still wants to be with him. The third story, titled The Abandoned, introduces a girl walking down an old corridor. She hears a sound from behind, but when she turns, no one is there, and the sound abruptly stops. Her attention is drawn to a board with Faculty of Science written on it. She notices a garland under her feet, which is suddenly taken away. A ghost grabs her by the hair and pulls her back, causing the garland to fall. Meanwhile, inside the campus, Min recounts the reason why they were moved out of the science faculty. To her friends, May and Joy, emphasizing that anyone who disrespects the board, particularly at night, will face dire consequences. The girls are skeptical and keep asking funny questions, not taking the story seriously at all. They open their laptops and begin working. Min calls her brother, Golf, requesting her laptop. During their conversation, Golf keeps whining about having a bad day and how Aoi, a girl he met 2 weeks ago, is not replying to his messages. After irritating the hell out of his sister, he finally says that he's standing in front of some sign. Coincidentally, he finds himself at the same ominous place, where the ghost appears while texting his crush, and he too notices the board. Unlike others, Golf chooses to ignore the warning and starts to walk away, carefully avoiding the garland on the floor. Meanwhile, Min continues her story, describing a glass cabinet on the ground floor of the old science building that houses a graduation gown. It serves as a tribute to a former student. The girl came from a poor background and endured constant leg pulling. She studied diligently, hoping to graduate within 4 years. Unfortunately, she failed her exams, and overcome with despair, she donned the graduation gown and jumped from the roof on the very day her peers were graduating. Ever since, on the eve of each graduation day, at least one student met an unnatural end within that building. In a twist of fate, Golf inadvertently enters the old building and finds himself drawn to the very same glass cabinet Min described. He dismisses the display as crappy and questions why they showcase such a gown. As he voices his skepticism, we witness the gown stirring as if possessed by a supernatural force. As he moves down the hallway, Golf sees a notice board with teacher pictures on it. He suddenly trips and falls. On the other side, Min shares a story about a student who challenged the ghosts and was found deceased the next day, his insides strewn across the floor. She also mentions a professor who suffered recurrent heart attacks and unfortunately passed away because she couldn't find her medicine bottle. As Golf gets up, he notices a medicine bottle on the floor and a door opens, revealing a hand asking for medicine. Believing it to be the professor, Golf approaches, only to hear a sound and see a silhouette of a woman hitting her. Concerned, he moves towards her, but the professor asks him to stop. Just then, Golf receives a text from his crush, which brings him joy. However, the professor's ghost demands her medicine back, and Golf pleads with her to be kind, as the other lady appears to be struggling. He approaches the woman's ghost and inquires about the medicine. Meanwhile, Min calls Golf, wondering about the delay. Golf mistakenly believes he is at the right building and assures her he is outside the faculty office. Min corrects him, explaining he is at the wrong building, and ends the call. Golf tells the ghost he has to leave, but promises to take her to the hospital after returning his sister's laptop. Golf escorts the girl's ghost to the new building, expressing his admiration for her dedication to taking graduation photos despite her illness. He offers his photography services, having previously captured graduation day memories for a small fee. Suddenly, the ghost vomits blood, prompting Golf to search for her medicine in her bag. Just then, Min arrives, questioning Golf's delay and informing him that he mistakenly went to the old building. She cautions him to be careful or the ghosts might break his neck. Golf assures her that he explored the entire building and only encountered a professor and a senior taking graduation photos, leading Min to believe he is under the influence of something. As Golf turns his attention back to the ghost, she mysteriously disappears. Meanwhile, Joy and May are in the lab, where they suddenly encounter a ghost and offer their help. However, the ghost's sudden turn startles them, and they attempt to flee. Before they can run out, Min enters, voicing his frustration about how his brother got lost in the wrong building. Just then, she witnesses the ghost firsthand. Before she can process what is happening, the professor's ghost appears, asking for her medicine. The trio is terrified, and Min calls Golf to inquire about the medicine bottle's whereabouts. Golf confirms it's in the laptop bag, but is surprised to learn it's not there. Min insists he find it immediately. Returning to the corridor, Golf finds the bottle, and as he crushes a garland, the ghost appears before him. Retreating in horror, Golf calls Min to report the ghost's presence at the walkway and his inability to retrieve the medicine due to her presence. Min encourages him, expressing her belief in his ability to succeed despite the Ironwood ghost's unpredictable appearances. Golf returns to retrieve the medicine bottle and is startled by an incoming phone call. Assuming it's Min, he answers and asks her to stop calling. However, he realizes with excitement that it's actually his crush calling. Disappointed that he missed his opportunity, he tries to call her back, but is unable to connect. This leads him to break down in tears. Suddenly, the ghost appears and attempts to capture him. Golf manages to escape her grasp and flees the scene, leaving the medicine bottle behind. Feeling frightened and defeated, he calls Mean and confesses that the ghost got to him and he couldn't complete the task. Mean, sensing his fear, encourages him to run while she handles the situation. The three friends escape the room, only to be met by the professor's ghost and the poor girl's ghost, both advancing upon them. Bravely, Golf steps forward to confront the spirits, declaring his determination to succeed this time. As the ghost reaches for him, Golf cleverly leaves her with only the helmet and escapes with the medicine bottle. In the hallway, he throws the bottle to the professor, and as she takes her medicine, she vanishes. However, they realize too late that the poor girl's ghost is attacking Mean, expressing her vengeful desire that if she doesn't graduate, no one will. Golf, quick thinking, takes a photo of her and praises her for making it so far in the faculty, telling her she should be proud. He congratulates her on graduating and takes a picture of her with the trio to commemorate the moment. Later, Mean and Golf go to the old science building to put flowers near the gown. After coming back, Mean comforts Golf, explaining that dropping out isn't the end of the world, and encourages him to look at the many opportunities available. Golf, inspired, asks Mean to return to her lab while he heads home. The movie concludes on a heartwarming note as Mean sends Golf an edited photo, bringing him immense joy.